Good morning and welcome to the Thursday, October 28th, 2021 edition of the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. The Black Fairy Godmother Foundation will host the Purple Diamond Awards fundraising dinner in North Bergen, New Jersey this coming Saturday with special guests Howard Hewitt and Antonio Fargas. Simone Gordon is known nationally for her philanthropic work as the Black Fairy Godmother. For almost 3 years, the Black Fairy Godmother Foundation, which is a nonprofit, has helped marginalized Black and brown families, especially those impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, with assistance. The nonprofit has received accolades for its excellent work from many quarters, most recently the Gates Foundation, which awarded a grant to the nonprofit. Let's talk right now with the Black Fairy Godmother herself, Simone Gordon. Good morning, Simone.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me, Mr. Brown.
Well, thank you for joining us. We've had the privilege of talking to you previously, but we've also had the privilege of talking with both Howard Hewitt and Antonio Fargas. I'll tell you what, as far as Antonio Fargas is concerned, no better spokesman for the Purple Diamond Gala that's coming up. Can you just tell our audience about this event that is going to happen on Saturday?
Absolutely. The Purple Diamond Awards is our second annual award ceremony, which we all come together as a marginalized community to honor many grassroots organizations that are helping many of us. It is our second annual. There's a lot of organizations that are doing impeccable work, but they don't receive the accolades that they should receive, especially getting their hands, their feet wet in the communities that we serve. So what we do is we come together and we pick certain organizations or individuals that are putting in the work. We bring them to the gala and we all come together to celebrate their work, provide them with awards, and each ticket that is purchased goes directly towards individuals who are impacted by domestic violence. The money will go towards either their financial hardship, far as them relocating, or providing them their education by getting a trade of their choice. It is just a beautiful night, and many of the individuals who were impacted and that we helped along the way will come to the gala, and they will also celebrate as well. So it's just a beautiful thing to see all of us come together, introduce ourselves, network, and to also just have great pride in what we do, as a community.
Yeah, and it's great to see your hard work come to fruition on Saturday. Just briefly tell our audience, I know it's open to the public. They can get tickets, right?
Absolutely. They can go to our website at www.theblackfairygodmother.org and they can purchase their ticket. We are also going to have people to come in to purchase tickets at the door if they're not computer savvy. There's so many people that are having issues with purchasing tickets online. They can come to our event long as they have the cash to pay. Howard Hugh is going to be there, and the historian Antonio Fargas, which I'm honored to have. I'm so blessed and honored to have. So he will embrace his presence in the room as well.
Well, Simone, I'm sure everybody's looking forward to it. You got to come back and update us and get prepared for next year, and let us help you promote next year's event as well.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to do that.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Simone Gordon, the Black Fairy Godmother. Check her out. Give us the website one more time before you leave, Simone.
Our website is www.theblackfairygodmother.org.
There you go. Thanks again, Simone. We appreciate you. And now let's bring on the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. Dr. Chavis, good morning.
Good morning, Stacey Brown. On behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association, Karen Carter Richards, our distinguished chair, publisher of the Forward Times in Houston, Texas, as well as all of our 230 African-American-owned newspapers and media companies across America, we're glad to be on this another edition of Let It Be Known.
And we're certainly glad to have our president and CEO with us. And later, in just a little while, we're going to have one of our distinguished publishers from the Savannah Tribune, Shirley James, on. So we're looking forward to that. But first, let's go through the headlines, Dr. Chavis. The U.S. Border Patrol agents at the center of a controversy stemming from Their use of horses to block Haitian migrants from entering the U.S. have not yet been questioned more than a month after the incident took place. Images of mounted patrol agents using their horses to push back migrants, mostly Haitian, stirred national controversy as an unprecedented number attempted to cross the Rio Grande into the small border town of Del Rio, Texas in September. The Department of Homeland Security launched an internal investigation into the matter shortly after the images came to light, and Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas promised a swift investigation into the horse patrol over a month ago, assuring everyone that it would yield findings days later, but they haven't spoken to the principal players as yet. And as a result, the U.S. Special Envoy to Haiti has resigned because of what he called inhumane treatment to migrants. The Biden administration says they have now prohibited the use of horses along the border. So this is certainly one that bears watching even further, Dr. Chavis.
Oh, absolutely. And we think that the special envoy to Haiti, we thank him for raising the contradiction. And certainly, I think the Biden-Harris administration now has to move swiftly to correct it. They did move swiftly by banning horses, but we need to get the horses didn't do it without direction from human beings. So, this is not a question where the horses did wrong. It's the people who were riding the horses did wrong. And those are people who need to be interrogated, investigated, and punished.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Chavis, here's an amazing story, at least I think, and you can read about it at blackpressusa.com and many of our local papers, our papers around the country. Earlier this year, a 17-year-old named Deverick Hill was arrested on suspicion of firing multiple firearms out of a car in a conflict between gang members. He was also recruited for a program that provides mentoring, job training, and a stipend of up to $1,000 a month in exchange for meeting goals that steer him and others away from violence, like completing classes or getting a job. The program is called Advanced Peace, and this one out of Fresno, California, is trying to reverse a rising murder rate by offering fellowships to people identified as most likely to be involved in shootings, because nationwide homicides rose nearly 30% last year, from over 2019, according to the FBI data. More cities are trying to address the problem by focusing on small groups of people responsible for outsized amounts of gun violence. And this organization, Advanced Peace, is spreading. It's in New York, it's in several cities in California, Virginia, and several other locations. Advanced Peace's fellowship program is now running or set to launch soon in 9 other cities: Rochester, New York, Fort Worth, Texas, and about 18 other cities are now using elements of the program. So, Dr. Chavis, what they're trying to do is that give these individuals who've gone a little bit astray or wayward, give them an opportunity to change things before they get too far into the criminal justice system.
It's a very effective program, and we support any diversionary programs. The criminal justice system is broken in America, and particularly mass incarceration of young people, of juveniles, and mass incarceration of anyone where African Americans are disproportionate, are not only apprehended, but sometimes falsely charged, unjustly charged. So these diversionary programs like the Peace Program, the NNPA, we support.
Yeah, and they also hired former gang members and ex-convicts to identify and mentor young men who had spent time behind bars for shootings, had been shot themselves, or were suspected in recent shootings. And in the first 5 years of the program, Dr. Chavis, 94% of the 68 fellows, they were alive, which is a victory in itself, right? 79% hadn't been arrested, or they have not had any type of gun-related charges, and 60% had received monetary incentives that have led them to improving not only their lives, but the lives of community members. So it's an outstanding program. We expect to talk soon on this program with the director of that program. We are in touch, and we'll give you guys a date as soon as we can nail that down. But also in the news this morning, Dr. Chavis, a billionaire's tax is what the Democrats have come up with. to pay for President Biden's landmark social spending legislation, as they focus on new ways to pay for the package. But it's interesting, Dr. Chavis, that Joe Manchin, the senator out of West Virginia, has refused to go along with the billionaires tax. And what's really interesting about that, not one billionaire lives in West Virginia. So who is he protecting, Dr. Chavis?
Well, again, I think that the Democratic Party, including Senator Manchin and including Senator Sinema in Arizona, they have to come together. I think if the Democrats continue to be divided, it's only going to help ensure that in 2024, we're going to face another situation where Donald Trump will try to be president again. And I think the Democrats should unite. I think those of us in the Black press, they keep bringing up different proposals. They have the votes. The Democrats control the House. The Democrats control the White House. And the Democrats have a 50-person voting strength in the United States Senate, which means with the vice president, 51, and voting, they could pass through anything that they want, but it takes unity. And I hope everybody understands that even next week in many states, there are elections. This is going to affect elections. We need to get these senators, including Senator Manchin, to look at the broader view. He's not only representing now with his policies the people of West Virginia. I don't think Senator Manchin has a sense yet about what's happening to our nation. We should be focusing on what happened on January the 6th and holding those accountable who tried to overthrow democracy in America. We should be trying to eliminate poverty, particularly child poverty. We should be trying to eliminate housing, discrimination, and homelessness. We got a lot that needs to be done. And of course, we always on this program talk about criminal justice reform. The Senate refused to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. So we got a lot that still needs to be done. I think when I talked to Cedric Richmond, Biden-Harris administration has accomplished a lot in its first year, but they need to keep pushing so they can accomplish much more.
Yep, and that was a great conversation you had with Cedric Richmond. And Dr. Chavis, a pivotal defense argument of the 3 white men on trial in Georgia for killing Ahmaud Arbery, a black jogger, is that they were trying to make a citizen's arrest under, get this, a Civil War era law that was later repealed amid an uproar over the shooting. When the fatal encounter occurred on February 23rd, 2020, it was legal in Georgia for people to arrest someone where they had so-called reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. This morning, we're going to talk now with Savannah Tribune publisher Shirley James. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Sister James. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Chavis. Thank you so much, Stacey, for having us this morning.
So good to see you. And you are a shining example of the best of the Black press of America. And we in the NNPA, we salute you and give my best to your husband also. We're just so proud of the work that you're doing there in Savannah.
Well, I thank you. We'll take all of those accolades.
Well, Shirley James, I know that you guys have a lot of news down there that you're covering, but including the Ahmaud Arbery, the jury selection is scheduled. The motions are being made, and before we even talk about the potential juror pool, which I understand is about 1,000, let's talk about this. The defense is using this law that came into effect in, I believe it was 1863.
Yes.
And the law was made really primarily because of runaway slaves. It was to catch runaway slaves. What's the feeling down there as far as them using this and whether or not they might prevail?
Well, use of that law might prevail. And that's very disturbing to me and to so many persons in this area of the country, and especially in this area of Southeast Georgia. Think about it, 1863, and the mindset of so many persons in this area, especially down, I would say, in the Glenn County area, where the population there, and especially around that area, it's about 60 to 65% white. So when you even look at the jury pool, how that is going to be affected for you have 3 white men, 65% of the population there is white. And it's very difficult when you read and you listen um, with the jury selection. There's so many people who are already aware, of what's going on because the video, I guess, went, it just went around the world. So some of
Right.
the persons who are being questioned to serve on the jury are already saying, that they have opinions about it, about the whole situation. So you probably have some who are probably more inclined to go along with enforcing this law that has been in effect for 119 years. Even though it was repealed by our governor, that law was still in effect when this incident took place.
Yeah, and
So
that's the scary thing.
that's why they're going to press, the defense is going to press very hard on that. And then the other part that they're going to use in reference to defense is the open carry and stand your ground law in the state that is still a part of law in Georgia. So you go back to thinking about what happened in Florida, with the open carry and the stand your ground, and we still
Right.
have it here. Um, so those are the 2 laws I think that are prevailing now. Well, one is now prevailing, even though one is repealed, but both were in place when this incident took place. And that, in my opinion, is going to really, I would say, I'm not sure that we're going to have the justice that we need.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not sure.
the trial is scheduled to begin February 7th of 2022. Shirley James, you just laid out something here. So you got both. You got the pre-Civil War or the Civil War legislation there that allowed for this type of behavior, and then you got the stand your ground. So let's break it down. So they, because the statute was eliminated after the act, right? So they're protected by that statute, and that they're going to be able to win in at least that part of the case, right? So now we have to stand your ground, but we all saw the video. We all saw this murder take place. There didn't seem to be any type of action from Ahmaud Arbery toward those his aggressors. It seems like they were clearly the aggressors. He was just trying to stay alive.
He was trying to stay alive, but the thing that excuse me, happens a lot, even with George Floyd and so many of our African American young men who have been unjustly murdered. What is happening is that the victim now is the person who's becoming the criminal. When you look at the kinds of things that may be being said, there's more focus on Mr. Arbery and his life. Looking at his mental life, think just different things that they're pulling out and giving more attention to him. Where he's deceased, he can't defend himself, but there is a way that when you look across the country and in reference to incidents of this type, where the victim ends up becoming the criminal, and the persons who are the proposed criminals are the ones that don't get that much attention, but they end up almost being from an opinion and discussions and editorials and things of that nature that are written. There's more attention given to the victim and his past, of what happened in his life, than what actually is happening to those who are being charged. So that's something else in our community that has always been happening when you think about it.
Yeah.
And there's always this perception, I don't care, and the stereotype if it's a black male, they're all, there's always putting some kind of negative stereotype on us. And Mr. Aubrey, Ahmaud, you look at his size. Of course, there's a stereotype about the black male and what size you are. And even though he was trying to defend himself, it's going to, I can imagine that in the court, it's going to make him be the aggressor.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that have to be thought about. But those are the kinds of things that we have to, as a Black community, continue to bring to the forefront. But it's just, I am skeptical. I'm skeptical.
Well, you're certainly not the only one. Yeah, I'm looking at some of the comments here. David Youngblood says, folks, get ready for a not guilty verdict. James Wright says, it's a sad commentary on our society when attorneys have to use a pre-Civil War law to justify and get off killing a black man. We're talking with Shirley James, the publisher of the Savannah Tribune down in Georgia. Dr. Chavez, you are all too familiar with the Confederacy of the South. I want you to weigh in here.
Well, thank you. As Malcolm X said, the Confederacy of the South is the whole United States. Is anything south of the Canadian border. So what happened in Georgia, what happened in Minneapolis, what happened in Los Angeles, what happened with Earl Garner in New York. I mean, look, thank God for the videotape. The videotape is what's going to make the difference. Keep in mind, at one time, lynching was legal. Separate and unequal schools were legal. Racism was legal. It was in the fabric of our American society. Racial discrimination against black. Slavery was legal. It wasn't illegal. And so these are defense attorneys. Obviously, they're trying to get their clients off by any means necessary. We expect that. But the videotape does not lie. The pictures does not lie. Brother Aubrey was running for his life, and he was hunted down by these vigilantes. And that's what they were, vigilantes. And they need to be held accountable. And so it's just going to test not only the courts in Georgia, but it's going to test, once again, the criminal justice system in America. A lot of people thought that the police officers that murdered George Floyd in Minneapolis were not going to be found guilty, particularly the principal when they had his knee on his neck. But it was the videotape that made the difference. And I think this videotape is also going to make the difference. So I join Sister James. I'm also skeptical, but I'm also believe that we're in an age now where when people can see what happened, when the members of the jury can see what happened, and instead of questioning the motive of the victim, they have to question the motives of the perpetrators. They were on a hunting expedition. They intended to kill somebody, and they killed this brother unjustly. It's murder. And I believe that the local prosecutors in Georgia are going to do everything they can to bring these men to justice.
Yeah, and and these three men that we just had on the screen, it's important, Shirley James. I know as the Black press, we do this right, but I look at mainstream media and they are calling it the Ahmaud Arbery trial. This is not the trial of Ahmaud Arbery. This is the trial of those three men, the McMichael family and Rowdy Bryan there. Talk about what you're hearing down in Georgia when it comes to that. Are they referring to it down there as the Ahmaud Arbery trial?
They are referring to it as the Ahmaud Arbery trial. And I think that that's something that we have to make sure that we do in the Black press, because the names that really need to be spoken, the names that need to be, publicized, the names that need to be out all the time are, like you said, McMichael, and Bryan. That's whose trial it is. It's the McMichael's Bryan trial. But nationwide, you think about it. I mean, the name that's out there, that's why it ends up, in my opinion, still coming back to the fact that it makes the victim become the criminal.
Absolutely.
Because of the use of the name. And that's
Yeah.
always been the case with us in reference to those kinds of things that happen, in our communities. You don't hear the name of the perpetrator as much. So I think that we have an obligation in our community and through our publications and through our broadcasts to keep the names McMichael, and Brian before the
Yeah.
public. We have to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I was talking to one of your staff members yesterday, Tanya Milton, and one of the things she pointed out to me, there was 1,000 people, she said, or at least 1,000 people that they are talking to as potential jurors. What's the makeup so far that you see? What are you seeing? Any people of color on that jury or potentially on that jury?
Well, right now, it's kind of down to about 64 persons that are being interviewed. And we've already noticed that in one, at least one person of Latinx has already, based on the interview and I guess the kinds of answers that were given, that person is not going to be in the final group that will be interviewed, to come down to 12. And remember, I told you that the makeup in that particular county is like it's over 60% white, and only about 20 to 30% that are black, and then you have other. So that's another difficulty that I see that's going to have to be, because according to the justice system, you ought to have your peers. If you are the victims or the persons who are being charged, your peers are supposed to be a part of not a majority of the jury. So it that's one of the reasons why I have some skepticism. But as Dr. Chavis has said, the proof is in the pudding with the video. The proof is in the
Yeah.
pudding. We're trying to find persons who are really going to be objective, even though
Yeah.
they've seen everything, and we've all seen it. That's going to be the biggest challenge. And I'm not sure that in that county you're going to find the objectivity that you really want. I still have faith in people in general and their honesty, but there's so much, on the political scene, just in our country, when you think of the mindset of things that are going on now, that persons are so free to think and to speak out in reference to their discriminatory attitudes that they have,
Yeah.
about us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Stereotypical kinds of opinions that persons have. And just to bring something to point, there is a Confederate statue that is about 119 years old, that's kind of right in the center of of where the trial is being held. And some private citizen there has draped it so that it will not be, you know, decapitated or whatever. But think about that. That statue is still there, even though I think I read that the city council there had agreed that it would be removed, but that's been some time ago and nothing has really happened with it. So it's just so much. And I think I watched that documentary on this past Sunday night about the Civil War. I don't know if any of you have seen it. If you have not, I'm sure you need to see it again, but it gives a lot of background information in reference to the opinions that persons in the South have
That's right.
Yeah.
about the Confederacy and why there's still this mentality that the Confederacy still exists in the South.
Well, we're going to continue to follow, obviously, this case, the trial of the McMichael family and Rowdy Bryant. We're certainly going to be checking in with you down in Savannah. Ms. James, we really appreciate the publisher of the Savannah Tribune. Dr. Chavis, your closing thought with Ms. James of the Savannah Tribune.
I'm thinking about Ray Charles, Georgia on my mind. I think Georgia once again represents the chance for America to move forward, but also it represents the tendency to reassert the value of the Confederacy, the value of racial oppression in states like Georgia. But again, it's not Georgia alone. It's not that one county in Georgia where the trial is going to be held. But we're thankful for the Savannah Tribune and all the great work that Sister James as publisher continues to do, to not just give a different perspective, but give a truthful perspective about what is going on around this case. We thank you for your leadership. I'm heading to Georgia because, in many counties, election day is next Tuesday in Georgia. And we got to make sure we get out that vote in 2021. We got to get out that vote in 2022. And Lord knows we got to get it out in 2023 and 2024. So because one of the things we have to do, we got to start putting more judges, more district attorneys, everybody that's running for election at the local level and the state level in Georgia. We got to make sure that blacks and other communities of color weigh in so we can get institutional change to challenge the institutional racism that's still prevalent in too many places, not only in Georgia, but across America. Sister James, thank you for your leadership.
Thank you. And I'd like at some point in time, Stacey, to talk about elections, because we're in the midst of one right here in Savannah, in this area right now for a House of Representatives seat.
We will.
There are no contentions.
We will definitely have you back and do that.
I'm going to call you. I'm going to be in Georgia on Sunday and Monday, trying to help get out the vote. I'll call you, Sister James.
Please do. Okay, thank you.
Well, it's a date. There you go. And we thank everybody, of course, for watching. And let it be known, if you enjoyed, we got a lot of feedback from Monday's show where we decided to mind other folks' business. Well, we're going to do the same tomorrow. So tune in because we're all up in Madonna's business tomorrow. So stay tuned and we will see you tomorrow. Stay safe and stay well. Thanks for watching.